Chapter 50. The captain took a deep breath. Overwhelmed though he was, his training took over, and he stood erect, stepping forward out of the cabin of the ejected bridge escape pod. The traveler in the blue suit jumped down with a bizarre smirk on his face, as if he knew something no one else knew. "Are we in danger?" the captain demanded of Mr. Blue. After helping down the pilot Samran, the stranger dusted off his hands and looked around. "Nah, they're awaiting orders. Stand by, if you will." He played with a very high-tech device attached to his wrist. Mr. Blue's face contorted as he read the information he was receiving. "You know I hate it when you get that look, old boy," Sully offered. Navigator Denry assisted Dr. Jones as the group stepped forward in front of the Gold Army. He looked overhead at the menacing clouds, dark and indigo and violet colors, throbbing and angry, like a bruise. The purple lightning streaked through the sky. There was almost no sound on this planet. The air was acrid and smelt burnt, brackish, smoldering coals. "I did say I wanted to find the Gold Rapids." The captain stood in front of his wife, Dr. Jones, protectively. "How could I initiate contact with them? I want to know why they are attacking Earth." The Time Lord shook his head. "I'm sorry. No. No what? I'm not here for that." The Time Lord was walking in a circle around Ruckus, making calculations, emitting tiny bursts of neon azure which zapped the silver humanoid, though Ruckus appeared in no discomfort from this. The captain stepped in front of the meandering time traveler, stopping him dead in his tracks. "As captain of the HMS Vercingetorix, I order you to tell me what the hell is going on here." The Time Lord sighed. The captain continued. "You know something important. I can see it in your demeanor, sir. I am no fool. And I do not tolerate being made fool of in front of my command. Divulge. Now." Mr. Blue typed into his time watch. Again, the captain was about to yell more, perhaps grab the blonde lunatic. But he heard thunder. They had been on this reclaimed dwarf star's surface for minutes with lightning, purple lightning. Yet, no thunder. Now, thunder was coming. But something tugged at the captain. Something of dread, deep within. The thunder was growing louder. He had never heard thunder like that before. Thunder just coming for him. He looked to his wife, instantly seeing fear cause her eyes to well with tears. The captain immediately thought of his crew and looked to their safety. Pilot Samran and Navigator Denry appeared fine, simply surveying their situation. "Can you hear that?" the captain demanded of them. "Hear what, sir?" Samran asked optimistically. Listen to the Thunder Woman." Navigator Denry searched the dark skies. I don't hear anything, Captain. Are you okay?" The captain and Dr. Jones both suddenly covered their ears. There was thunder, roaring, shrieking, screaming, wailing, and only they could hear it. The Time Lord shook his head, his smile long faded. The cacophonous thunder was so loud in their skulls that the captain and Dr. Jones collapsed, screeching. Mr. Blue held out his right hand, his stare not wavering from the two diminished Joneses, which lay in a pile before him. Ruckus spun in a confused circle, becoming longer, leaner, a blur of silver. The warping, undulating Ruckus snapped to the right hand of the Time Lord, having solidified into a jagged, sharp, yet intimidating, intricate silver metal spear. Or, as Sully perceived it, briefly a futuristic lightning rod. Out of nowhere, an electrical tidal wave of bright orchid and neon iris light exploded from the sky. The ground under all of the survivors shook violently. All looked to the electrically charged heavens of black and magenta. Denry covered Samran, who watched the old Commodore Sully fall to the rocky terrain. The Time Lord was standing over the captain and Dr. Jones. The violet lightning started in the sky as a funnel cloud, swirling and growing smaller, focusing in on the Joneses, who lay crumpled and helpless. Mr. Blue slowed his perception to millionths of a nanosecond as he intuited that for his plan to work, this had to be perfect. Violet time lightning tore down and struck. The Time Lord thrust the lightning rod into the heart of the attack. An explosion of dark indigo and smoky purple blasted from the impact strike outward through the HMS Vercingetorix crew, tore through the motionless Golden Army, knocking them to their backs. The dark, violet time wave tore across the surface of the planet. An eruption of sound echoed almost like thunder, yet reversed. The sound caved into itself as the purple time explosion evaporated. The blasting, grinding noises fell to nothing. The planet was silent once more. Sully coughed and stood, rubbing his bad knee and his bad ankle and his bad hip. He looked around at the smoke and debris of the crash. Finally, after a brief search, he found and donned his spectacles. What he saw was incongruous. The planet's surface was different. He couldn't explain it, but it was less murky. Sully jumped when he turned and saw the army of the Golden Rapids standing there. Wait. They had all just fallen down. This made no sense. And the army was somehow larger, appeared more muscular and menacing. Every single soldier in this Golden Army had eyes now, glowing red eyes. The retired Commodore shook his head and looked over at the crew. The captain and Dr. Jones stood next to Samran and Denry with their backs to him. Their clothing, their uniforms, were different. He looked over to see that even the HMS Vercingetorix bridge escape pod was a different color and emblazoned with different logos. It was as if Sully had stepped through a mirror or into a different version of reality. Everything was the same, but just a bit off. "What the bloody hell have you gone and done now, Mr. Blue?" Sully walked to the crew, whom were crowding around something. He pushed aside the captain and Dr. Jones, who appeared to be fine now. Seconds ago, they were screaming bloody murder. This struck the retired Commodore as ludicrously strange. What was happening here? Sully looked down to see that the Time Lord was burned horrendously, charred, bloody, scorched. His platinum blonde hair had almost been completely burned off, as had most of the Time Lord's trademark blue suit. "Oh my God!" The retired Commodore flung himself down to the electrocuted time traveler. Mr. Blue coughed, wheezed, tried to say something. "Oh," is all Sully could make out. "Sir, who are you? How did you get here?" the captain demanded. Sully looked at Mr. Blue. "Don't worry, old chum. We'll get you right as rain. Don't try to speak just now." The captain placed his hands on his hips. "I say, sir, I am Captain Jones of the HMS Vercingetorix, and I order you to tell us how we came to be here." The captain looked from Sully and suddenly seemed to notice the army of the Gold Rapids standing motionless. "God in heaven, where did they come from?" "Where are we?" Dr. Jones asked, staring at the lightning-filled sky. Sully stopped listening as the amnesia-stricken crew bickered and questioned everything around them. No. What did you do?" Sully gripped the broken Time Lord by the lapels. Mr. Blue hacked up orange blood. I saved them, Sully." Shh. Quiet now, old boy. We'll get you back to Persian. She'll fix you up. Safe as houses." They won't remember." The Time Lord became quiet. Sully looked at the wreckage of the HMS Vercingetorix and remembered that Mr. Blue's time machine was on board the rest of the ship that was sent to Earth, long ways away from here. The lightning rod reformed into the silver humanoid form of Ruckus, who knelt by the Time Lord as well. "Is he dying?" the Commodore asked the Silver Rapids Collective. "Can the Time Lord be reunited with his IO-TARDIS?" Ruckus asked. Sully shook his head. "No, Purge is on Earth, somewhere. Lordy, the old blue boy kind of sucks at time travel, actually. Mr. Blue's eyes began to glow a soft white, which was steadily growing in intensity. Sully looked at Ruckus. What is happening? Is he dying? Unknown. 84%. The renegade time lady blinked. That is 84%. The deep, monotone voice of the Ever-TARDIS resonated around the antechamber of Deceit's black and chrome control console. Correct. Power levels depleted to 84%. Deceit raged with powerful anger, which made her fists shake as she screamed so loudly something in the distance cracked. Across the room was the empty vessel, which used to house Captain Jones and his wife, Dr. Jones, of the HMS Vercingetorix in 2467. Now, it was empty. Empty enough for the displayed glass to crack under the strain of Deceit's voice. The Time Lady leered at the distinct absence of the two Joneses. Necessary they were. Now Traveler and his impetuous IO-TARDIS purge were going on the offensive. She breathed deeply. How did this happen? The Ever-TARDIS replied. Capaz Ela Necoric Phase Traveler version 2 stopped the temporal echo wave arc from reaching Captain Jones and his wife Dr. Jones in 2467. This was accomplished via unknown means. The time arc reverberation suggests possible intervention from a separate race of nanotechnological silicone beings. This has caused a split in the time seam, rendering an alternate reality. Deceit finished. Incorrect, the Ever-TARDIS stated. Rendering your return to normal space-time before your intervention. Deceit slammed a fist into her console. Then, a smile, which was at once rueful and insane, crept across her face. So, the Traveler's little time machine thinks he's ready to take me on? She murmured to herself, cooing almost, as she slid a lever. We'll just see about that. Black entered his bar, the Endless. He expected to find the norm, an empty speakeasy circa 1920s Earth. It was the same, yet something. Where was Death, the mute personification of the pretty goth from an ancient Earth graphic novel, was nowhere to be found. No absent jazz played in the background. No wafting smell of cigars. Someone had hacked his time bar. Black leered around, almost growling. Suddenly, the spotlight hit the curtain behind the grand piano. The black explanation point boldly lit the empty stage. Black sighed. Yeah, it's great. Very dramatic. He stepped up and swept aside the curtain. Inside the back room was the single great stone table in the shape of a circle. Perfectly situated around the enormous table were 13 medieval-style rock thrones. I never really did get the whole... The Violet Stranger waved a hand around. King Arthur thing. What is it? What is it that you actually do here, Black? Get to the point. The Time Lord in the perfect black suit focused his dark eyes. The stranger in the orchid suit languidly slid from the 6th throne. Simply a warning. Mr. Blue may have overstepped his bounds this time. When has that ever stopped? I'm serious. The Violet Stranger dropped his voice to a growl. Consider this your payback. He stranded on the Gold Rapids World Engine in 2467, aimed at Earth, without his IO-TARDIS. Black tilted his head to the side. He was successful. I'll be damned. Not without serious repercussions. The Time Lord in the black looked away from the Violet Stranger. You're saying that he'll... What, have to regenerate? It's ahead of schedule, but... The Violet Stranger slapped his hand on the table. I'm saying, I don't know what's going to happen. He's caused a retrograde temporal shift back to Prime. Yeah, he set things right. That's what Mr. Blue does. It's not that easy, Black. The stranger in the orchid suit put on his perfect purple derby. Don't be naive. I owed you one. Now we're even. Get Mr. Blue some help before Deceit locates him and ends. The violet stranger looked around. Ends all of this before it's even begun. Black watched the stranger walk through the endless, his footfalls echoing in penetrating silence.
You leave here, we're enemies again. You know that, correct?
The violet stranger smiled, his eyes glowing a sickly orchid, and doffed his hat before vanishing in a lavishly decorated purple wardrobe. Black ordered 2 fingers of scotch from the now present bartender Death. He took a sip and growled into the silence of the endless.
Oh, how I hate Villiards.